In lesson 16, you're looking at how to look at problems with ratios and create rates to solve the problem. The first example says that Diet Cola was on sale last week and it was $10 for 4 packs of Diet Coke. How much do 2 packs of Diet Cola cost? And so the first way that you are going to solve this is just by looking at a ratio and creating equivalent ratios with it. So creating that table, you would have written 10 to 4 costs per packs. 10 and 4 both can be simplified by 2, so we're going to simplify our ratio to see what our simplified form would be, and that's 5 to 2. So we don't actually need to find our unit rate per 1 pack because we were able to simplify the ratio into an equivalent ratio of 5 to 2, which told me then that our answer would be $5 for 2 packs of cola. Now the next question leads us a little bit further into rates by asking us to determine what would be how much would 1 pack of Diet Cola cost? So first you have your ratio of 10 to 4. You also could use the ratio of 5 to 2. We always want to take the unit rate to find this answer, and the unit rate is the value of the ratio. The way that we find the value of the ratio is by long division, and if you look here, that would be 10 divided by 4. 10 divided by 4 with the long division comes out to 2.5. And the way that you do that long division is you start with your 10. 10 divided by 4 is 2. You subtract your 8, you get a 2. You have to bring down the 0 after you add the decimal in. And you get 20 divided by 4, which is 5. Which gives you 2.5, which means that our ratio is going to turn into 2.5 to 1, which stated as the rate would be 2.5 per pack. So 2.5 to 1 for the ratio to say how much 1 pack costs. Down below is the exploratory challenge. The exploratory challenge is something that kind of allows you to work with somebody else in order to determine what you think the answer would be. So what I would like is for you and the person sitting with you in your group to try to solve this before you look at how I solve it. Once you have came to a conclusion together, then please play the video to look at how you solve it to see if you guys solved it correctly. So the question states, Tegan went to Game Room to buy new video games. Game Room was having a sale, $65 for 4 video games, which is our ratio. He bought 3 games for himself and 1 game for his friend. That's another ratio. But Tegan does not know how much Diego owes him for 1 game. So they want to know what is the unit price of the video game. And then what is the rate unit? Remember, unit price is going to be the cost per 1 video game, and the rate unit is what you're measuring by. Well, we already know that we're measuring cost per video game because in the first ratio, it's dollars in video games. So that's dollars per video game. So that's our rate unit. We don't have to do anything to find that. But now we're going to have to find the unit rate. And the unit rate requires us to use use the ratio. So that's 65 to 4, $65 to 4 video games. And remember, anytime you're doing unit rate, you want to do cost divided by amount bought, which was 65 divided by 4 video games, or $65 divided by 4 video games. So then we need to set up our long division. So we have 65 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. We subtract 4, you get 2, bring down your 5. That's 25. 25 divided by 4 is 6, which is 24. We get a 1, put our decimal, add a 0, bring that decimal up. Our 0 comes down. 10 divided by 4 is 2. We get an 8, subtract a 2, add a 0, bring it down. I'm going to lengthen this line here just so I don't get confused there. And that's a 20. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So that's 1625. Lucky for us, it is money. And so that actually makes a lot of sense. And so our unit rate then, our unit price would be $16.25 for 1 video game. Because looking at it as a ratio table rather than the value, you could actually see that you took 4 divided by 4, which gave me 1, and then 65 divided by 4, which gave me my 16.25. And the way that we state that is $16.25 per video game. Right here is our unit price, and right here, dollars per video game is our rate unit. And that's all you'd have to do to give me the answer for that one. On the next page, I'm going to do the first part, then you are going to finish the rest, and then make sure you go on to the side. There's a C at the top on the back that you'll need to have checked by me if you still are struggling on the bottom of this page. So let's first look at our scenario. There are 4 football fans that took turns driving the distance from New York to Oklahoma to use or to see a big game. Each driver set the cruise control during his or her portion of the trip, enabling him or her to travel at a constant speed. And remember, anything is important if we're going to be doing ratios because it has to always be true in the scenario. The group changed drivers each time they stopped for gas and recorded their driving times and distances in the table below. It says, use the given data to answer the following questions. First part, what 2 quantities are being compared? Well, I'm not comparing fan because my fan is not a quantity. A quantity is a number. So the 2 numbers that are being compared, now these are different numbers, but let's look at the units that we're using. So we're comparing distance or miles to time, which is hours. So we are comparing distance to hours or miles to hours. So I should have written distance to time. Now, the way that we would actually say this as a rate unit would be, so this is equal to saying miles per hour or miles per, because a slash stands for per, hour. Next question. What is the ratio of the 2 quantities for Andre's portion of the trip? And then it asks us, what is the associated rate? So my ratio for Andre, which is my top one up here, is 208 to 4. And as you should notice, these are both even numbers. And my rate would require me to have a comparison to 1, which means I need to go from a 4 to a 1. Also, I know that I'm going to have to do this because the rate will be based off of the value. So the rate is the value, and as we have discussed, value is the ratio as a fraction. And so his ratio for his distance of his trip would be 208 over 4. And we can do that long division to find our answer. 208 divided by 4 would be 5. That's a 20. 0. Bring down your 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. That's the end. And so our rate would be 52. And looking at what I am comparing, remember I put up here miles per hour, just to double check myself. 208 is my miles, 4 is my hours. Therefore, when I found the rate of 208 to 4, it was still in the order of miles per hour. And so this would be 52 miles per hour. And if you want to write the word per instead of doing a slash, you're more than welcome to. It means the same thing. It's just helpful to write it that way so that I remember that a slash can also mean per. Down below, you're going to be doing the same thing for the 3 other people. Please complete that. And the last question asks you, circle the unit rate, put a box around the rate unit. So the example of that would be our unit rate was right here, and they want a circle around it. And our rate unit wants a box around it. And if I want to, I could even define it. So this here is my unit rate. This one here is my rate unit. And just slide that over for you to see the whole thing. And then you need to do that for all of the ones below. And then you also need to turn and answer the word problem at the top of the next page in order to move on to your checkpoint.